Serie A title race has been just as intriguing this season. So let's catch up with how we got here. This is through 10 matches. It was Napoli that led the way after an absolutely superb start to the season for Antonio Conte's men. There were 4 points clear at this stage, 25 points versus 21. Napoli still leading through 20 matches, although it was quite a lot closer. 3 points the gap between them and Inter Milan, and Atalanta also catching up, just 1 point behind. They were on 43 points through 20 matches. And at the moment, this is where we stand right now. Inter Milan have regained the lead. They are top by 3 points as they aim to defend the title, 64 points from 29 matches. Napoli 3 points back on 61 from their 29, and Atalanta have had a bit of a tricky time recently, particularly after that defeat to Inter Milan at the weekend. 58 points from them for 29 matches. Do you see, particularly given the way that the weekend went, disappointment for Napoli? I mean, they were obviously playing Venezia, who looked like they're going to get relegated. Didn't see that result coming. At least they didn't lose the game, but it wasn't a vintage performance at all from Antonio Conte's side. And then Inter Milan winning against a rival, Atalanta. Do you think that, similar to what we said with La Liga, was a killer blow for Napoli?
It could be. It could be. I think 3 points is still too tight to say definitively season over, but you look at not even just their disappointing result at the weekend against Venezia. You have 7 games now in Serie A where they've won 1. It's just too fallow of a period to not really consider, to still consider them as major contenders. They're significant underdogs now. And you lose Kvaratskhelia, who I think was an important part of the team for most of the season, but when you're losing to Como, when you're drawing with Venezia, when you're drawing with Udinese, even at the time, I know that Roma are on a good run of form, but at the time, this was more than a month ago, they drew against Roma as well, and Roma are not a team that have pulled up trees the entire season. So I think you look at this Napoli side, their recent results, I think the fact that they didn't go and get another big player, another talismanic player when Kvaratskhelia left, David Neres has been out for a long time with injury. I look at this Napoli team and I see significant underdogs. I think it's difficult to say that they're going to be able to mount a challenge now when they, in the first part of the year, anyone outside of the Big 7 or the Big 8, if you want to call them, in Italy, they would handle them no problem. But you start losing to Como, you start drawing with Venezia, you start drawing with Udinese as well. I have less confidence in this team now.
And I think the way that Conte reacted publicly in the aftermath of that January transfer window showed that he felt exactly that way. We missed a trick here by not going out and signing, a big player for the remainder of the season. I suppose the big difference between the Italian title race and the Spanish title race this season is the fact that both teams in Italy aren't playing in Europe. You've obviously got Inter Milan, who are going to be very busy in the Champions League, you'd think.
Yeah.
Napoli aren't. Could that have an impact?
Well, it's meant to until now. Napoli had basically said, we're playing 38 league games and almost nothing else. They binned off Coppa Italia because they're like, all right, we're going out. First time of asking 11 changes, we're out of there. Antonio Conte has had to focus on the 38 league games, and that's it, the entire season. And you would think that that should lead to better fitness, although some players are starting to go out with injury now, and that you'd be able to every week just deliver your absolute best. They haven't done. So I do think that maybe over the course of the next few weeks, if this were to tighten, it would be because Inter have 2 legs against Bayern, which are tremendously difficult. But I still think that Inter, the way that they rotate, and that the fixtures that they have coming up aren't so arduous in Serie A, where you go, they've had their big games. They played Napoli and they got a draw. They played Atalanta this weekend, but you look at coming up, home with Udinese, at Parma, home with Cagliari, before you go away to Bologna, before you play, after you've played the 2 games of Champions League. Now, the other thing, too, for Inter is they do have the 2 legs against Milan and Coppa Italia, which would be very difficult. You're playing, I think, 4 consecutive midweeks as a result. So it's a lot of games. But I think when you look at their fixture list coming up in this very busy period of the season, they should be able to get 3 points, even rotating Arnautovic and Taremi and Fratesi and Carlos Augusto and Jan Pisek and all the players that they have to rotate into their team. They should be able to get victories even while they rotate.